Masterpiece Women. Welcome back to this segment of the Masterpiece Women podcast. My name is Tina Raines, RN, and I'm the founder of Masterpiece Women. I'm an entrepreneur, a coach, and my passion, though, is to really help women build business God's way, to really impact the marketplace for Christ. That is our heartbeat at Masterpiece Women. So we try to bring on some really great women to add value to you. So many of you are entrepreneurs. And so today we are super blessed to have Kathleen Krueger today. She's an author. She's a businesswoman, and I want her to tell her story because it's very impactful. So thank you for joining us today.
Good to be with you, Tina.
Kathleen, we're super excited. So let's just start with, how did you get started in the industry? I love your story, and just share it with the women. I think it's very inspiring.
All right, thanks. So I was in my 50s and had been working as a bookkeeper in the construction industry for about 30 years. And I'd always wanted more flexibility with my time, to be able to, work from home, work from anywhere. And this was 12 years ago. There wasn't a whole lot of options for that. But at that time in my life, I had started doing some writing of poetry, which I'd never done before. And as a part of that, a friend, another writer, connected me with a group of writers online that were sharing their writing online. And as I did that, I noticed that some of them were trying to make money off of their writing online. They weren't making a whole lot, but they were generating a little bit of extra money. And I thought, well, somebody must be writing all these words on the internet. I wonder how that works. And I just started researching, looking for how do people get jobs writing the content that's online on the internet. And I found a couple of sites where people were looking for writers, and you could submit bids for different projects. And so I set up a profile, applied for a couple projects, and within a month I got one, writing articles for a newsletter. It paid actually very well for that time frame. It was $75 for an article, and that got me excited. I was like, this could work. And so I started talking to some of the other writers, and I'm like, do you think I could really make a full-time living at this? Well, none of them were doing that. So they really weren't sure. And I'm like, well, I might as well give it a shot. And so I started doing more research, learning more about content writing, freelance writing, what people charge, what types of projects were out there, and continuing to apply for work. And I was 53 at the time, and I gave myself a year. I said, let's see if I could replace my income, which was close to full-time, but still just a part-time job, with writing instead of numbers. And actually about 6 months later, my hours decreased at work, so I had even more time to commit to that. And it was actually only 11 months before I had enough freelance work to quit my job as a bookkeeper and do freelance writing full time. I can't hear you, Tina.
Oh, so sorry, I muted myself. So I don't know how I did that, but so podcast wouldn't work very well if you're muted, right? So Kathleen, you know what I love about that is that persistence, that perseverance. I think oftentimes people have an idea, they want to do a side income, whether it's freelancing or in direct sales or any other type of a side business, and they do it for a month or two and they don't make a lot of money and then they give up. And I love what you shared. It was 11 months before you were really able to leave your other job. That's a whole year. Most people don't last a month or two doing a side gig. And so your persistence, your vision of what you wanted, to have that goal of being able to have the freedom to work from home, have the freedom. We were laughing about it today. I will share, we're doing a podcast from my grandson's bedroom, ladies. You can do it. You can just do it. You just have to go. You have to be persistent and every single day work on it. So that's just, to me, that's so encouraging. So share the name of your book, because I love it. It's going to be the title of our podcast today.
Okay. The book that I just released last year is called Hey Freelancer, Go Clone Yourself. Because that
Go
tells
clone yourself.
Go clone yourself, because that tells kind of the rest of the story of what happened after I became a freelance writer, got my own ability to work from home or anywhere and bring in the income. God had bigger plans than I had. We tend to focus just on ourselves and what we want, but his vision is always bigger than that.
Amen, girlfriend. So tell them what happened. Tell them the rest of the story, because it's pretty powerful.
Okay. So what happened was that I found out actually within a month after I began that I was getting clients coming back and repeat. And there were weeks where I had way more hours to work than I wanted to. And but I didn't want to turn clients away. So because I knew this would go up and down, and every week wasn't like that. So I called on some of the writers that I had met online and asked if anyone would be willing to take on a few projects here and there to help me with the times when I had more work than I could do. And sure, that was easy to find. Several of the writers, most of the writers actually, were better writers than I was. So I felt very confident turning work over to them. And so what I wasn't expecting was that never changed. It wasn't a temporary thing. A year later, I had probably a half a dozen writers working with me, helping me meet the demands of my growing client list. And I had to stop and reevaluate, because I was spending so much time just managing assignments and not just writing. So that was God's plan, to actually help a lot of other writers who had never expected to be able to make a living off their writing. We're starting to do that. And
I love that. And you said the key. I want to stop you right there and hold on to that thought that you said, Kathleen. You said God had bigger plans and it wasn't about yourself. And that's the key, right? The key is when we make it about other people, then God can use it in such incredible ways.
Yes, and absolutely.
Love that.
And I was thrilled to do that. I mean, I was excited at what the opportunity that I'd been given to work from home and work remotely and bring in an income. And so I just really encourage the other writers, you can do this. And several started with just working for me, and then learning where I was finding jobs and how to do that. And, I just shared that information. I actually wrote, because I was spending so much time telling people how I was do this. I did actually write a book right at the beginning also that was, this is how it happened. This is how I did it. This is where I look for work. This is, how to write a proposal and all of those things. And so that was my first book, actually, The Fast Track to Freelance writing online.
That's so
Um,
inspirational. So a question that I just thought of, Kathleen, in regards to that, how has AI affected freelancing?
it is affecting it some right now. It's hard to say where that's all going. Um, we have had some clients that still say, we're not going to accept AI writing. But we have others saying we're okay with you using it as long as you still meet the same parameters of quality writing, and no duplicate content or plagiarism happening, which you can't. It's not automatically guaranteed with using AI. They may be pulling stuff from other places. I have used it some, and used it for my benefit. And that's what I tell other freelancers is, because I've been in it for 12 years, I've seen technology continue to change. And what you do is you find out how to adapt and how to use that technology for your benefit.
I love that. Yeah, I think I have a lot of friends who are in the writing world, and they're also coaches, and they are scared of AI and how it's taking away their business. But I do believe there's a big opportunity to use it to our advantage versus being fearful of it. Versus, I mean, I know for
Right.
myself, it saved me so much time because I'll
Yep.
write something, it's my writing, and then I just put in there, say, hey, can you like improve it, make it sound better? And so it takes my writing and just makes it sound better. So or puts a twist on it or puts a fact in there. um so I do feel like it's a great opportunity to use it as a great tool. So
Right. Yeah, I've
tell me.
used it for generating an outline, uh, generating a group of different titles. There's a lot of different ways that you can use it for your own benefit.
I agree. I agree. So let's talk a little bit about, some of the key questions. Some of the key questions that we like to share on Masterpiece Women is a practical, which I think you've already added such great value of the persistence and really sticking to it, and thinking about what does God want for me? How can I help others? Because when you think that way, I believe that the Lord blesses it. But what was that one thing that someone said to you when you launched out to do your own business that was like that best piece of advice that you took that you'd want to share with the women that might help them have the result that you had?
Okay. Um, I guess it was really not looking at other writers as competition. And I never did that, and I found for the writing world, in general, uh, it's a very community oriented, very we're all on the same team. Some of the like my first intro into writing for magazines was another writer says, oh, I write for this magazine, I have the editor's email, I'll give that to you, and this is what you need to say, this is what they'll expect. So I got a lot of that from other writers, other freelancers. Never look at them as your competition. Share your information freely, and people will do the same for you. And there's enough work out there for everybody.
I
And
love that. That's one of our
that's the
mottos with
best way.
Masterpiece Women. So we have monthly luncheons. We also have a retreat, which our retreat's coming up at Hutchinson Island, November 3rd to the 5th. Just saying, ladies, if you haven't registered, registration is going to close soon. We have very limited spots left. But one of our primary words we say is always collaboration, no competition.
Mhm.
Because it's interesting. I posted that today specifically. Let's cheer each other on.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate each other's successes, and let's help each other versus feeling like we have a competition. And I just started this direct sales company in the fall, helped launch it. And I'm just blown away by the people who are so cutthroat and so they just want
Oh,
to, tear everybody else down and our products are better. I'm like, guys, there's tons of great products. There's tons of great
yeah.
companies. Let's celebrate each other. Let's help each
Yes.
other. Let's
Yes.
learn from each other, not
Yes.
hurt each other. I think we have so much of that in this world. And so I love that piece of advice, Kathleen, because if everybody started being other centered as leaders, God's called us to be
Yes.
servant
Yes.
leaders. And if
Yes.
we're serving people, it's not about I. It's about,
Mhm.
okay, how do we serve? How do we
Mhm.
love? How do we listen? How do we care for people? How do we have more
Right.
compassion, more grace, right? And
Right.
God blesses all of that. And ultimately, people
Yes.
want to work with people they admire, people they trust, and that they like. So if you are being that person, they're going to gravitate, just like what you described your business. If you had not had that sense of collaboration, that sense of, let me help you, you help
Mhm.
me, we help each other, let's have
Right.
this community and serve each other, you may not have had the great success that you had. And so that's a huge point, ladies that are listening today. Don't see your sisters as your competition.
Right.
Or,
Right.
and I'm sure you saw this too, Kathleen, with people that had great success, the comparison issue,
Yes.
whether competition or comparison of other successes. Let's
Yeah.
celebrate each other,
Yeah.
right?
The other thing that I found, what God was doing behind the scenes was connecting me with clients like that. I learned so much from my clients about how to improve my writing. They were sharing that with me because they found that I really did care about their companies and I did want to do quality work. And one of my clients, it was an interesting thing in my first year, but he said this. He said, "You're not the best writer I've ever worked with, but you're the most reliable. And reliability is more important to me. I can help you do better on your writing for what I need, but I can't teach you reliability and character. So character is really important."
I love that. Oh, that's huge because oftentimes, and I know I've taught in Masterpiece Women, we do our membership and we've taught women how to build their own memberships. We've taught them how to build online businesses, etc. And we have some programs in our Masterpiece. And one of the things that we often say to them is, you don't have to know it all. Like, and
Yeah,
oftentimes that is the paralysis, right? Kathleen, is that people that may not have perfected whatever they're trying to build, they don't know enough, they don't, what have
right,
you don't have to be an expert. Because
right.
really an expert is just what? The person ahead of you, you just
Yeah,
have one step ahead of the person
yeah.
behind you. So,
Right.
but oftentimes that holds people back. So I love that, the fact that you were reliable, you had the integrity, you had those traits, character traits that are so valuable for us to have in the marketplace. And again, it pays dividends, right? So
Yes, it
that's
does.
another
Yes,
great
it
example
does.
of how important it is to be Christ-like in every aspect,
Yeah.
especially our business when we're dealing
Mhm.
with, we don't know who we're dealing with, Christian, non-Christian. And
Right.
it's important for us to have those character traits out in the marketplace if we're going to impact people for the Lord.
Absolutely.
And he
Absolutely.
blesses it. I love that. So, one of our other questions that we always ask is, let's talk about something when you got started. It's not always easy to start a business. You have their ups, your downs, your failures, your successes. Share
Mhm.
a failure that was when you started your business that was really impactful, that was probably the most valuable learning experience you had when you were launching your business.
Um, I would say it was probably that point when a year later I'm like all of a sudden, okay, this has turned into something different than what I planned. And I was spending all this time managing, and I looked at my numbers. Important to look at your numbers. And I
You're a
wasn't,
numbers girl.
yeah, yeah. And even if you're a business owner, you need to become one.
Yes.
That I wasn't making any more. My business was making a lot more money, but I wasn't making a lot more money because I was paying so much out to my subcontractors. And so that's where I said, okay, this has to change. I was initially you're just helping me out, so I'm just taking a small percentage. So I got advice from a couple different people who had businesses before or did at the time, and I'm like, what do I do? And so what they encouraged me was, it's important that your business remain profitable for you in order to continue to give work to them. So you need to change, what you're paying them, reevaluate, find something that's fair for both of you, and readjust. And that way you'll continue to grow in income as your business grows in income. And I did that. I found what was fair, where the writers were, that's good, that's fine, because I don't have to look for work. You're the one looking for work. And so it's really important that your business is being profitable to continue on.
Absolutely. And I've seen that over and over. And I've seen it, even I have friends that are doctors. And one of my girlfriends is a doctor. She has a practice, and she brought on 2 more doctors and all this other staff. And when she looked at her numbers, she's like, but I'm not making any more money, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense when your numbers are not adding up. But suddenly you have this big business, but your take home is about the same. Well, but you have all the stress and,
Yeah.
so we talk about
Mhm.
it. Multiplication is good, but make sure that the margins are going up as well.
Right.
Otherwise, it
Right.
doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Yes. I feel you. That's an important one. And
Yeah.
it's easy to get caught up in the day to day and not pay attention to that. And suddenly, if you're like,
Yeah.
oh, wait a minute, 6 months, 9 months into it. So I was always a firm believer when I owned the healthcare staffing business. My most valued person was my bookkeeper, my CFO. Like, I'm a
That's important.
visionary. I can build all day long, but I needed somebody that was looking at those numbers constantly. And so when I went into, solopreneurship, that was a weakness. It was a huge weakness for me because I was so used to having a personal assistant that pulled reports every day. I was so used to having a CFO, and suddenly I don't. And my husband's like, honey, you're spending a lot of money. I'm like, I am, because it starts calculating up pretty quickly. So I was spending more on VAs and social media than I was bringing in. And you have to sometimes, spend money to make money, but
Right.
after a while, you got to figure out the balancing act of it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's so important.
Yeah.
So authenticity is our other pillar. We talked a little bit about it as well earlier, is you being authentic and you sharing these failures. The reason we like to share the failures on our podcast is because we really believe that people learn so much more from our failures than we do from our successes. And oftentimes, unfortunately, it's the failures that hold people back. They fail and they just give up. And so, ladies, if you've struggled because you've made mistakes, you've had failures, 1 failure, 2 failures, it doesn't matter. We've all done it. So I want to encourage you today, make sure that God says, Philippians 1:6, right? I'm going to complete the good work I began in you.
Yes.
Well, I believe he means that for every aspect of our lives, even our business. Like, he's going to continue the good work. Just because we have a failure doesn't define who we are. It's a growing opportunity. You learn from it. It's the best learning experiences, right? Because I bet, Kathleen, you look at your numbers all the time now.
Yes.
So,
well, yes. No,
well, you did when you owned the business, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, I still own the business. I'm just not writing in it anymore.
oh, that's even better, right?
Yeah. It is.
That's the goal, is having that sustainability and the
Yes,
constant revenue coming in without having to do all the work. That's the goal we all have.
right.
So
Absolutely.
excellent. So talk to me a little bit about authenticity. Has that been a big thing in your leadership? How has it affected your leadership? What can you say about authenticity in your life and your role as a leader?
That's something that I feel like I've really grown in over the years, and that God has been teaching me the value in that, and that part of it is not being afraid to ask questions, or with my clients, not being afraid to challenge when they're heading in a direction that I see is maybe not um, the right direction or the most profitable direction, I'll say, for them. And sometimes it's just because they don't know. They don't understand some of the things that I understand. That, for instance, with writing, they may say, well, I want it to look like this and say this. And I'm like, well, what is the writing for? And understanding that there's SEO, that Google, you're writing for Google as well as for people, and we can mesh those together, and learning how that works. Um, Being able to just talk as a friend to a business owner and draw out some of those things that are deeper behind the business than they may even realize. So just, being myself and not just the writer or whatever, but if you genuinely care about your clients, about your employees or subcontractors, everything just flows better that way.
I love it. I love it. Well, Kathleen, you have been a great speaker on our podcast. You've got a wealth of knowledge. I love your entrepreneurship. I love your heart of just serving people, helping people, and doing it God's way, which is what we're here for, right? So thank you,
Yes.
Kathleen, for joining us today. And we would love to have you back sometime. And I want to keep in touch and learn more as you continue to build your business, and would love to hear from you again. So
Okay,
ladies,
thanks.
if you're a writer, get with Kathleen. We're going to have all of her information down below. And don't forget about our retreat. So again, the registration is going to close very soon. We have limited spots available November 3rd to the 5th at Hutchinson Island, Florida at the Marriott Resort. So it's going to be phenomenal. We have incredible speakers. We have Priya Ramsuran, we have Danielle Mioli, we have Joyce Romack, and I will also be sharing as well at the retreat. So, we're going to dive deep into our purpose, and it's our retreats. For those of you who haven't attended or not the average retreats, they are very different. It's not a fire hose of all this content. It's very interactive, and there's tons of downtime to spend with God and just really retreat, because most of the women that come to our retreats are very busy entrepreneurs. They need a rest. They need to just really relax and have community with other like-minded women. And so we have plenty of time for that as well. Every afternoon, there's several hours of break just to be able to just relax and enjoy the pool or the beach or the golf course or whatever you like. So don't forget to register today, masterpiecewomen.org. And Kathleen, thank you again for being with us, and we look forward to staying in touch with you.
All right. Thanks, Tina. It's been great.
Thank you. Have a great day.